Crave more conversations with nightlife legends? Follow Rants and Raves on your favorite podcast platform. Alinka is the personification of an old-school raver. Born in Ukraine, it wasn't until moving to Chicago at 8 years old that she was exposed to the newfound sounds of pop music and was quickly enamored. Her love of music reached new depths upon discovering house music as a teenager. And dancing and listening simply weren't enough. And on top of that, spent much of her spare time digging through records at gramophone, handing out flyers so she could get into clubs while underage. Sheer dedication, which in 2001 resulted in a nearly decades-long residency at Smart Bar for Justin Long's Dot Bleep party. When Alinka and Sean J. Wright met in 2012, their lives took a fortuitous turn, and the two soon became simpatico sonic sisters. They ultimately collaborated on Twirl, first as a party, and subsequently the Chicago-based record label, which, in addition to the founders, has released music from artists such as Jason Kendig, Majorettes, and Kim Ann Foxman. Check out Alinka's newest release on digital records, Heaven Knows and Always on Time. Alinka's career as a DJ and producer over the past 25 years has taken her to iconic clubs and parties across the globe, such as Panorama Bar and Robert Johnson and etc., etc. Her evolution as an artist reached new levels in 2019 upon her return to Ukraine for the first time since childhood to DJ. The name of the renowned cultural institution that booked her is a mathematical symbol for doesn't exist. Commonly known as Krylivska 41 or K41, the 19th century factory houses a club, community center, and concert hall. K41 recently named Alinka as its first international resident, solidifying a monumental, life-altering, artistic and personal relationship with the city of her birth. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, K41 has remained a beacon, not only as a dance floor for release and recharge, but also for grassroots initiatives and fundraising. Alinka's deep connection, time spent in Kyiv, and touring across the globe has given her tremendous insights as how precious and valuable a music-centered ecosystem is in times of peril, danger, and uncertainty. She joins me today to discuss why that is and delve into lessons learned which are applicable regardless of where you reside. Alinka, welcome to Rants and Raves, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. You know, you have a ton of experience from your many, many gigs and many, many places, and really eager to hear your insights. Before we dive further, let's go way back to kick things off. I'd love to hear about your first party.
I actually remember it really well because it was so random. Like, I knew about house music from the radio and stuff, but I didn't really know, like I grew up in the city, and then we moved when I went to high school, like 20 minutes out of the city. So, like, I knew people that, like, friends that were DJs, but not really, not, like, real, like, they just had turntables, so it was the first time I saw, but I didn't really dive into it until my first week at university. I went to school 2 hours south of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it was completely random. Like, all my friends were trying to join sororities, so they were having that week where, like, they got picked by a sorority, and then...
Was it, like, hazing week or
it's
rush
like,
or
it's
something?
Like, it's rush, and then you find out, like, what sorority you're in, and then I was like, I don't want to be in a fucking sorority.
I was going to say, I didn't know that you'd be in a sorority.
It was, like, a key moment, and I was like, I don't think this is for me. And then, like, I made friends with these, like, wrestler guys down the hall from me in the dorm, and the guy's older brother was visiting, and they're like, we're going to this club, just come with us, like everyone else is doing weird sorority shit. So I just went out with them, and then they were like, everybody took their first ecstasy or something. Like, the older brother knew, but we didn't, and I swear to God, I had the time of my life, and like, I didn't even know what ecstasy was. Basically that night, it was like, that club had DJs from Chicago coming every week, because it was like 2 hours of the city. So every Thursday there was like international DJs coming.
Got it.
Really successful. And so I think this was on a Thursday even. We went out and I was like, my mind was blown, basically, you know, like your first pill, basically.
Your first
Everything
pearl,
changes.
your first party.
Another dimension kind of opened up, and then I was like, oh, I want to go to this club every night. So I did. I went every night, every weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was at the club, and I met like all my friends there. And then they were like a little bit more experienced ravers, so they started taking me to like proper raves.
Got it.
And then like, you know, the DJs around campus like also had like house parties with DJs. Like there was like a whole little underground culture in our school. We had like lots of like afters with local DJs and then random parties and undergrounds and stuff. And so once I was in, I was just like, this is like, I just want to be immersed in this culture and find everything out about it. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of us had that, but I think for me it was so far removed from what I was used to in this like normal, also because everybody was in the closet. So it was like, you're kind of living like this fake life that's not necessarily yours and you don't really fit, but like you're trying to pretend to like have this thing. So for me, that was like the total opposite of that. So I was just like completely focused in on just like deep diving into the scene after that.
0 to 100.
Yeah, but it happened like that. It was like, I remember it was that sorority rush week, and then they were just like, come to the club. Then I lived at the club after that. So I moved right in. I did the lesbian U-Haul, and we had like a cute little record store on campus and everything. I mean, it was like, also there was raves like in Bloomington, like an hour. Like we would drive to the other university raves, and then we would drive to the Chicago and then drive back. So we were going to like, we got really involved. It was like that. Like I had a car, my roommate had a car. Or not my roommate, like my other little raver friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody we were like rave tourists instead of going to class.
Yeah, for me, there were Chicago raves that I tried to go to. I didn't have a car. And also my mom, sorry mom, well you do know now, but I was just sneaking out. So
I'm also sorry mom.
I literally, I got caught going to Hamilton, Ontario, which I thought was very close to Detroit, but it was actually like 4 hours away.
I think our perception of like time and distance and like reality was very altered.
You just didn't care.
I mean, I did so many dumb things that now I'm like, oh my god, how did you, like, I'm surprised that me and my friends all survived this long and that we're doing quite well in life, because we did really like things where if I was my kid, I would have like beat my
100%.
I would have spanked me, you know, like I was bad. I was like, what the hell are you doing?
I was definitely a monster of sorts. I will go on from that, but like,
yeah.
I once went to Toronto on a jar of change. Like, I had no money.
But that's what, yeah. We
were
driving to Chicago with like $7 in our pockets, and that's not even enough for gas to get back to school. And then we would like, I think like the security guards broke into my car and stole all our jackets. So when we got out of the party, we had no coats in the middle of winter in Chicago. And like a girl was walking in front of my car wearing my roommate's jacket, and she was like, oh, the security guard just gave it to me because I was cold. And I was like, fuck. Well, we can't do anything because we're on like a random, you know, warehouse on God knows where.
What are you going to do, like confront about it? Exactly.
No, so we tried to drive back, but we also had no money. So then my roommate drove us to Indiana while I was sleeping, and I woke up like on the border of Illinois and Indiana going in the wrong direction with no gas money. But somehow we made it, you know, those old Nissans and like those beat up cars, they will go. They will go on effort. They were like, fumes. I will get home. I will.
Fumes, effort, and like whatever energy you're exuding or something.
Like us. You know, we were basically like, we will survive no matter what, and we will get home.
It was, for me, it wasn't even as much survival. You just like didn't know it was coming next or if it was going to happen because things got busted all the time. Yeah. So you were just like,
and we were, and that was it. I mean, it was an adventure. It was almost like our rave Goonies or something, because remember, like, when, you know, there was no social media, right? So there was, like, the internet was not even, like,
cell
really...
phones.
Yeah, exactly. We had no phones. And also, then all the parties, like, you knew about the parties from, like, the flyers. So you had to go to the record store, or you had to go to another party to get the flyer. And then it would be like, I don't know if you had this in Detroit, but we had, like, there was, like, a phone number you had to call.
Oh, yeah, the info line.
So you had to drive, and then sometimes it'd be like, okay, go to this gas station and meet the guy. And
the map point.
And then we got there, and the guy was, like, being arrested, and all the ravers were just turning around in the gas station, like shit. Then we have to drive around for a few more hours and wait for them to list the address, and by then you're like... I've you know, it was a scavenger hunt or something, right? Like
there's a party that my friend and I missed because we literally just couldn't find it. Like literally. And I somehow, in my box of rave flyers, I've managed to somehow keep the directions, which clearly I wrote down wrong probably. We just never found the place. Like, we ended up going back to her house. We drove around Detroit for hours.
It was probably the weekend after.
I think it's so magical,
What if
though.
you got the date wrong, too?
Nah.
It could have been, like, the weekend after.
Probably not. But I think that's magical, you know? Like, I kind of love that we missed it.
I mean, I love that we've managed to survive all these decades on our survival skills from the rave days.
I mean, I think it's the resilience is certainly something. And in your earlier rave days, other than music, of course, which, you know, I hit on a bit earlier, what other things connected you to the scene other than sound?
I think it's, like, the community and how different it was, and the freedom to be yourself, and, like, all the different kinds of people that I was meeting that from, like, all walks of life, and kind of just, it just felt so different than what I was accustomed to, like... Yeah, it just felt special, and it felt like really like you found a buried treasure or something that only you and your friends knew. You know what I mean? Like, it just like it wasn't mainstream culture. Most people didn't know what DJs were.
No.
They didn't know about that music. So like you just felt like you discovered this something really special, that you're a part of something and a part of a community. And yeah, that felt really fresh, and I just wanted to be part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, for me, it's like like-minded people that come from a huge array of different backgrounds, races, religion, socioeconomic, like, you name it, and the different perspectives that brought with it.
Yeah.
You know, that I really, even as a kid not having the experience to be able to articulate it just the way that I did, looking back, I do remember that being like such a draw, is meeting different kinds of people and like getting out of the suburban bubble that I had been in growing up. You know? How do you perceive dance music culture to have shifted in the last decade, particularly since COVID?
I think, you know, COVID kind of pushed it into like very mainstream culture. Like I feel like it was already kind of getting to that point, but not as drastically. And then I think because everybody was stuck at home and like watching these visuals of like streams and social media and whatever, and then thought like anyone can do that, you know, because it's DJing on a live stream is completely different than DJing in real life or to a crowd. Even it's different. I think it just also like this 2 years of not making money and this constant like divisive like weird competition to survive after, I think it pushed the scene in kind of also a negative direction where it felt less about community but more about individualism. It just like musically felt not as inspiring, and I think a lot of that comes from like people focusing on capitalism more than like skills and artists, that like, you know, it became about social media numbers and fucking numbers and like selling tickets and people trying to make the last 2 years of like profits back and focusing on profit more than like art, you know.
Exactly.
Art.
Yeah, commodification over community, really, a lot of it.
I feel like more and more I just feel like out of place, or I don't know where I fit in a scene that I've been involved in for 25 years. Like, I don't recognize it. There's still, like, very good parts of it that I recognize, and I see, like, lots of great things happening, but, you know, sometimes I come home from, like, a festival and I'm just, like, in the hotel room, like, halfway in tears because I'm like, I don't understand this shit, and I don't really feel like I want to be part of this. Like, I've given half of my life to this thing that I don't recognize anymore. So everybody, I'm sure, has those moments where you're just like, how many more times can I hear a sandstorm on a main stage? and people think that that's like dance music and it's original. I mean, it was at some point, but like, I don't know. It's just like I wanted to do, like, be surrounded by inspiring, meaningful people, and I am, because I
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. But then the rest of it feels really like you have to really focus on the things that you like, because it's so easy if you focus on the big picture to be completely uninspired and want
Yeah.
out.
I have a theory about that. I definitely feel that because it's now pop culture
Mm-hmm.
to a degree that it just never ever was. I'm making a big generalization that it's a big catch-all for like all different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
So within that, it's only natural for people to not have like as a whole for as many
Yeah.
people to have that similar music ethos and core and responsiveness as they did when not only just like in the 90s and or in 2000s and early 2010s, but also as a smaller community, right? It whittles
Yeah.
down the amount of people that are actually part of it. So I think for me, when I have feelings like that, I try to put my head there because we've
Mm-hmm.
both been around, quite some time, and there are so many ebbs and flows. And I do think
Absolutely.
that this ebb, right, has continued to like such a crest because of algorithms and commodification
Yeah.
and social media, and hopefully that subsides, not so that people don't have access, just so that love remain
And
in,
there's a
in
place for
spaces.
everyone. I mean,
Agreed.
that's like the more the scene grows, the more scenes it just splits off into, and that's the thing. It's like I'm not gonna tell people that like commercial dance music that they're wrong or anything like that, because also, like, I think at some point all of us got into it from commercial dance music. I didn't know the fucking difference of what I was listening to the first, like, couple months that I was going to parties. I was just like, oh, I really like it, because
Yeah.
I liked what I was listening to. I got myself educated, and I think that's the experience for a lot of younger kids. Like the
Completely.
first year they might be into Sandstorm and
And they might be
like,
forever, which is totally valid for them.
absolutely, and that's totally fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the thing of, like, we can sit there and judge people and think that we're better and whatever, but we're not.
Exactly.
It's just different. What I don't like, though, is like, it used to feel like a community that, even like, I have friends that we don't play each other's genres, but we're friends because we're decent people, and it was never competition. We weren't trying to replace each other.
Yeah.
And then it feels almost like you have to think about the fact that, like, the people that, like, bullied you in school are now, like, DJs, and also in our scene, and the ones that are trying to erase the history of it, and kind of make people uncomfortable in spaces that they created within the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, homophobic, racist, like, pricks,
Yeah.
like, that you have to now
Rampant.
watch out for at your gigs and in the crowd, and also on the internet, because they're always bullying people. So there's a whole other aspect that's, now as a community, we have to create a safer community for the rest of us to exist, that we didn't necessarily have to think about as much when it was like a smaller underground thing, because if people were, like, disrespectful or racist or homophobic, they would never be allowed at anyone's party. They would
got
be
bounced.
blacklisted. Like, and people remember it like we knew each other.
It was like a self-regulating kind of thing.
Where now
more
you
so.
really have to, like, put that on a flyer and then have to enforce it, and then have to walk around and also, like, talk to your crowd, and, like, there's just, and I don't mind the effort because it's necessary, but I'm also just like, where do we,
Yeah.
like, it's hard because I play underground music, but I also will play at, like, festivals and big events and stuff like that, and so I notice, like, it's like I'm uncomfortable in a lot of spaces that I'd never had to be before.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other people like me feel the same. So it's
And I even think people probably, regardless of experience,
Yeah.
can feel that way, especially if, like, that's their entry point. And for anybody, I would say, that's listening, it's completely valid in your feelings. But
Absolutely.
like, if you're coming into it and feeling that way, just know that there's like-minded people out there. You just might not have met them.
Yes, and find
Which I
your
think-
community and your support system, because even if, like, those handful of friends keep you safe, that's still, like, that's good enough,
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but just really,
We need tangents.
yeah, there's a lot of ranting in the race, but, for me, it took, I had a lot of different friends and a lot of different scenes, and over the years, those relationships evolved, and some, I learned from those relationships. So it doesn't mean that the people that you necessarily are going out with in the beginning are the people that years later that'll remain the same. Sometimes you get lucky or fortunate. I look at it as a shared music ethos.
Absolutely.
And that's those are the things that bind lots of people from different backgrounds together.
Yeah, and I don't need people to like my music or like the same music as me. I just need people that are like nice people and respectful, and I will always take like the interesting people that I want to like have meaningful conversations with.
Yeah.
Over just somebody that also likes house music, because whatever. Like, yeah. It's about like existing respectfully in spaces
and learning,
and in this industry and in this scene together, and doing it in a way that's positive for everybody, regardless of everything musical.
Well said.
Yeah.
Agreed. K41 sounds to be such a special approach to a venue, crafted with an abundant amount of consideration. What do you think sets it apart from other clubs and spaces?
I think for me as an artist, it was always very important when they booked me for the first time, because it was my first time back since I was 8 years old to the city. But like, I didn't know what to expect, and I was super nervous, and they were just like so welcoming from that moment. And I remember like the first artist dinner, and every one since then, it was just like this giant table with like people from the bar team, people from the booking team, like people from Berlin, people from Kyiv, like the DJs. It was always like the local DJs, the international, like you just got to know the community even from the first moment. Like they would give us a t-shirt with like the artists that were playing, like you're always taking home like souvenirs. They always made you feel so like you were there with a purpose. It wasn't just like, oh, you're a good DJ, we booked you by. Here's a hotel, here's the party. Like you just develop this personal relationship with the space. And then because the crowd there is so different, they don't care if you're famous, like they actually just give a fuck about what you're playing. So, like...
That's refreshing.
They were so open with me, and it was kind of like, it gave me the opportunity to grow with the space and with the crowd and become kind of, like it developed into my home basically. Like I saw it from the beginning, but it was also like I watched the club grow, and I think they also like really consider the artists and the people working as well as the crowd, like they're constantly in communication. Like they will always ask me like, how is the sound? Wow. What can we improve? And so the next time I would come back, like it would just be better.
Which is huge.
And now it's really like perfect, like I get goosebumps and tear up during sound check. It's not that I'm trying to sell it, but it's true. It's really like, it's spectacular, and they're still trying to make it better.
Wow.
So it's this like constant improvement, and also just like they really care, like they're not just doing it, they're doing it like for themselves, for the space to just improve, to constantly be better. So yeah, it's just, if I was to design a perfect club, that's for me the perfect club. It's the architecture, the way it was built, like the team, the crowd, everything about it.
And for me, the hallmark of some of the best clubs and parties is just what you had alluded to, is that continual improvement.
Yeah.
And then it also just sounds that they're really giving equal weight to everyone who's within that space, and not just like the DJ. And you see some spaces, and I've heard from folks that work in nightlife, especially, about how potentially clubs like aren't built necessarily with them as much in mind, or operated with them as much in mind. So that's really refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I think they just care a lot, like from my perspective, it's exactly what a club should be. Caring about everyone in the room, from the bartender to the door people to the DJ to the crowd. And like I worked every job before I was DJing in clubs. I worked at the door, I drove the DJs, I did the flyers, I worked bartending, like I did everything. So I'm respectful of everybody, because I know like if you go to a party and you have a bad experience with anyone, from the moment that you enter, it affects your whole night. So like as a DJ, sure, now like we're so focused on like superstar or whatever, but for me they're like, the music's very important, but so is everything else in the
Yep.
space. Feeling comfortable, feeling safe, the staff being friendly, like people, like, so those are all things that I consider very important as well.
I completely agree. And I feel like everyone is the center of their own experience and equally as important and valid within the space,
Yeah.
from the like individual dancers to, like you said, like the door person or the person that's cleaning or whoever it may be. And so much of that goes unrecognized in today's culture.
And we need those people.
Yeah.
I'm still excited. Sometimes I get like Christmas WhatsApp cards from people that drove me.
Oh,
for
really?
certain venues around the world,
That's
and I'm
so
just like,
sweet.
it makes me feel really good because I'm like, they're so nice, but also it's like you never know who you're gonna meet. Like I'm still friends with promoters I met 25 years ago, like really good friends. And the same artists, and like it is what you make it. It's either like you don't pay attention to anything or anyone but yourself and what you're interested in, or you make friends for life, and then you have this like monumental experience.
Yeah, like a life, well,
Do
a life
meaningful
altering.
shit. Meaningful shit.
Exactly. The most. How have your experiences playing at K41 and just being in Kyiv overall evolved from your first gig in 2019 to recent days?
I mean, everything's changed obviously in the like since the full scale invasion. Um, what started as like, oh, this is a great club and I can't wait to keep playing here. Like now what I see is what they're doing is so vital and so like, it showed me what community is, what proper community is, and like how powerful this music can be, and like the fact that they have this place to gather every week, no matter how difficult the atrocities happening during the week are, just to have this space and to have this music and to like have this community, and also to raise money for the military and everything that they're doing. It's just so inspiring.
Across the globe, no matter what city you're in, music and the dance floors on which we gather are an unparalleled opportunity for people to exchange energy during states of high vulnerability. Have your experiences shifted your perspective on the preciousness of our individual and perhaps collective experiences?
Definitely, because I was reminded like the importance of community and like having that support system, and like what these spaces can be when you need a place to gather and to release and to kind of like escape what's happening, whether it's no matter what, like culturally. That's why these spaces and this music, I mean, the underground resistance and these queer spaces and spaces for people to gather that had no other space to do that,
Yeah.
at a time where it was difficult. And we forget that because, when you add like the capitalism and all these bells and whistles and bottle service and whatever the fuck entered the last
Sparklers,
20 years. Yeah.
trapeze artists, I don't know, whatever.
Sparklers and, throwing cakes and whatever the fuck entered the ecosystem. It's easy to kind of forget where it came from and like what it can be and how powerful and important it can be. And so like traveling around the world also, like I'm a very sensitive person. It's, you can't not have empathy for everyone and not like feel really emotionally like, I guess, connected. Like I really pay attention more now, and I try to be present, and I try to learn from everything that I see from different spaces and different cities and different people, and I'm much more like in tune with the world. I guess it's made me like a student of the world, not just a DJ traveling around trying to be an idiot.
So no cakes on your rider, no sparklers.
No, I mean I care a lot more about like community and also like creating joy and like those kinds of moments. They also like teach you as a DJ, because I think when I was younger, I was so focused on like the technical part and like showing off what I can do and doing these like fancy mixes. And now I really think about the people in the room and like what they need and what we can achieve like together in creating those special moments. Just growing as well as a DJ, you know, and growing as an adult, because you're much more like in tune, you know?
Like what the reciprocal exchanges from the dancers to you, and is that what you're...
Yeah.
Rather than it being just so one
I think
direction?
I'm just much more of a sponge of the energy of spaces. And that's why I think some of my gigs are so like inspiring and monumental, and then others like completely fucking drain me, because I'm also very much a sponge of that energy in that space. And you know, they're different. It's different. I always enjoy myself because I love the music, but sometimes I leave like really kind of depleted, and other times I leave completely energized. So I think it's we learn a lot about ourselves and the world, and kind of like the importance of what is significant to you changes as you grow and as you travel. But I think for me now, especially, like I see how powerful this music is, and like how much more important it is for me to do meaningful things and focus on what's important to me instead of maybe the broader picture, which sometimes feels uninspiring and difficult, you know? Like I've learned to focus on the positive things and the communities and the people that I really care about. I've kind of had to filter the same way you filter music as a DJ. I kind of had to filter my surroundings and the things that I do and the gigs that I take, and also what I focus my energy on, because I think that's the only way to survive, because it's like everything, it feels like overload in every way. And I'm sure like other people that aren't in our industry can agree, because there's just an abundance of fucking everything, you know? It's like algorithms, it's just, you know, everything is too much.
Everything's too much, and then now we have AI. It's like, oh, it's just gonna get worse. So I think protecting your energy is taking that from it. When we had the first conversation that led to us doing this podcast, we not only talked about Ukraine and your experiences specifically at K41, but also how your experiences as a traveling, working DJ across the globe have taught you insights. In addition to this, is there anything particular?
Yeah, I mean, they taught me to open my eyes and really like be present, because even, for example, like the first time I played in Beirut, I was sitting in this like fancy hotel eating breakfast at the sea and just like watching this beautiful view, and it took me like 20 minutes of sitting there to actually focus in on what I was looking at, and the fact that there were like bullet holes and, you know, caved out windows probably from explosions in that building next to the sea. Like my eyes weren't even like
registering
trained. No. And then when I did, it was like everything registered. I was paying way more attention to fucking everything that I saw everywhere. We're so privileged to come from places that haven't experienced that, and we don't even think about it and can't relate to it until we see it, and then we do. And it changes your perspective, because you have to care. You have to care about the world if you're a decent person, and all of the world, you know?
And I haven't had the same experiences that you have, and just reading, you know, the news on any given minute, or what, you know, with all the atrocities happening in every corner of the globe, it's like sometimes, as much as I can feel a certain way about going out or be critical or whatever, it's like the ease of which we're going out, regardless of like any of the things that we talked about earlier with it being pop culture and not the same. It's like we're so fortunate.
It's such a beautiful thing that the world is lacking so much, and you know, it's so easy to fall into this trap because of the internet and all the bullshit.
Yeah.
That it's just divisive in so many ways, and you have to really catch yourself. You know, I think we've all been there and said some stupid shit that we regret on the internet, or gotten into like a heated thing where you're just like, what am I doing? This is so ridiculous. I guess that's a part of growing up. Like, I can't imagine having to go to school at the age of social media. I'm so happy that we like were able to maintain our innocence outside of that, but I think it's just like what's missing is this like really just having fucking empathy for people, you know, like
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
All things are never equal, but you can have empathy regardless, and also just
and you should care about all the
understanding.
causes at once simultaneously. It's okay to just be like, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this,
Yeah.
and I care about all these people
Yeah.
at once. You don't have to like
Pick and
compare
choose.
which atrocity is worse, you know, like from your safe space. Like it's okay just to care about everybody.
It's very privileged to be able to do that, I would say.
It's also very idiotic.
That's even better said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand that part of it. I think that will always be a mystery to me how
I agree, and
people in the West can do that, because I think it's just like people are so far removed from the reality of these hardships that it's like I don't know what else to say about it, but yeah.
I'm not sure, but I do hope that it evolves some way somehow over time.
Yes. I don't want to spend my time on the internet anymore. Yeah. I really don't want to fight people on the internet. Sometimes I'm like, if it all ended right now, that would be fine. We might deserve it.
Yeah, and for me, I'm like, well, the world's going to keep going. It's just humanity. What do you think are some of the most important things to remember in our local scenes that can help propel them in a positive direction?
I think, just focusing more on like inclusivity in our overall community and understanding that like just because maybe you haven't experienced something yourself doesn't mean that other people haven't experienced it, and trying to see each other's perspective, that like if I enter a room, what feels safe for me might not feel safe for another person, and to be considerate of everybody's experience so that we can kind of grow cohesively and improve and grow, like also just like admitting our faults, like not having this like I see it because I see it in certain communities. It's you can't have so much pride that you think your scene is perfect and your club is perfect and your parties are perfect and that you're perfect, and whatever you think you're perfect in any sense, even as an artist, that's when the growth stops. So for me, it's like I always want to learn and grow, and I feel like that should apply to everybody, from our clubs, from our promoters, from, like the people working in the scene, the agents, the managers, like the artists, the crowd. Mm-hmm. I think we have a collective responsibility to this culture to like keep the essence of the culture alive and to keep it moving in a positive direction, even when it becomes mainstream culture, because we still have to continue to educate people on the history of where this came from. I see so many like internet posts now that people are trying to argue like where the music come from and like completely whitewash and erase the history of it, because I mean, like most people aren't as educated or taking the time.
Yeah, they're not curious, or they just their own phobias and all, and
or they just don't care, and it's like easy for they don't.
Or they just think they're always right, and they can just whatever they say goes.
It's the internet. It's the land of the keyboard warriors, But I think it's our responsibility to educate people.
I think so, but I think it's also awareness and curiosity are things to remember in our local scenes. And to your point, we have so many differences, whether it's based on background,
yes,
or points of view, but remembering our commonalities is something that would only propel us in a positive direction.
Totally. And by educate, I'm only talking about the history of it, so that it's not erased.
Yeah, and I'm basically just saying educate, yes, but then also I think it's people's personal responsibility too.
Absolutely, but like I can't argue with every troll that's like,
no,
before this there was blah 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 and they played electronic instruments. I'm like, fuck off. It's like you can't erase Chicago and Detroit. Sorry. No. In New York and all these scenes where this was taking place.
Also, if you have a point of view, you can be additive to things and say, and also this and that. It's about how you're phrasing it, and you don't have to erase everything to contribute to a conversation.
And they're also trying to kind of erase the importance of queer people within our industry.
People of color, yeah. 100%.
And people of color, of course. So I think it's just important, like, as this culture becomes something maybe that we weren't prepared for.
Yeah.
And it goes, I've seen so many different cycles, so like I have no idea what's going to happen. Like I know what I care about and what I'm doing, and I'm always kind of trying to focus on that because I've seen trends and all these things like come and go, and I think now, especially with the overload of everything, it's really what will keep us going and keep us sane is like, kind of propelling these positive things about our scene and our community to the top and focusing on that, and also trying to fix what's broken,
Yeah.
and to create these like safe spaces and what this can be, and also listen to each other.
And remembering that we all have a personal responsibility with what we bring into not just a space, but into the larger scene in general. And sometimes you have more space for that than others, or more space for perhaps your friends or your chosen fam or whatever the case may be. For me, that is like such a huge part of it, and not
Absolutely.
burying your head in the sand and ignoring and just saying it's not my problem or it. And also just communication. I find that in general, this is a huge generalization, but people are less prone to talking about their differences. And at the end of the day, whatever your differences might be, talking about them, you can agree to disagree on things and still have your commonalities and things that draw you together. And by not losing that, it enables you to build connections and actually make some sort of shift and change, whether it's in the interpersonal relationship or something out of that relationship that you grow together or do together.
And I think part of it, honestly, for me is like, there used to be just such like a human aspect to it because I couldn't buy music without going to the record store, every week.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to have these conversations with somebody, you would do it in person. And I think the internet kind of, it shields the bullies, but it also like kind of like makes it a little bit. People are afraid to say certain things or to like have these conversations.
They don't want to get canceled or chastised.
Yeah, and also it's like, you have a character limit. Like you can't have real meaningful conversations on the internet. It's not possible, really, like unless you're doing a Zoom call or whatever the fuck you're doing. But like,
tone and intention have so much as a part of that, and things can be very easily misread. Look, some things are read spot on and they might be intended as being harmful or phobic or racist or of whatever nature they might be. But sometimes you're just like, and I can be guilty of that, not reading it like in the tone, like going ahead of myself and expecting to receive something, right?
Yeah, I've definitely said shit on the like internet or whatever that I've regretted because it was just impulsive and stupid. And I'm like, so I generally in interviews and stuff don't have a filter, but I try to be as honest as possible. But I like, for me, I'm not really into social media, and I find it like completely toxic and daunting in every kind of way.
I call it the scourge of the earth, so I definitely feel you on that. But
heaven is a dance floor and hell is the internet.
There you go. And I mean, but look, some people that's what they love, and that's completely valid, and they're gaining something out of the experience that I just don't get, and that's absolutely fine. And it's not to tell anyone what to do, but just to be aware of its place, and that music and the dance floor is an in-person experience for the most part. And
when you put your phone away.
And really tune in. And the present is the present. And to take advantage of that is to be able to use our spaces as the emotional and emotive reset and recharge and whatever you need. And those times are precious. You can be on your phone on the toilet. You can be on your phone wherever. You can be on social media, on a bus. I don't know. But like, the time on the dance floor is something magical and is unlike anything else that for me that I can ever think of that's sensory. So to squander that and to take it for granted in the moments that we're together is it for me, I view it as a waste of my time.
I mean, they can be very sacred spiritual places if done right. And like, I'm not even thinking about anything else. Like, I'm just immersed on the dance floor.
Yeah.
I remember when I went out before I was DJing, it was just like, it was so special. Like, you didn't need to focus. I never looked at the DJ either. I think
No,
that's the thing
me
that's
neither.
like, that's the most difficult part for me now. And what changed is like, I look sad or something, you know? Like, I'm not used to people looking at me. I'm just always mixing. So I'm just like very also ADHD. I have to focus on what I'm doing to get my mind to shut off because everything else gives me anxiety.
Well, a friend of mine was about to DJ and he asked me to sit behind a booth with him and like actually sit there, and just seeing all these people look in the direction, I had to run out. I had so much anxiety so quickly. I had to run out of there. I was like, how do you do it?
I don't really look up, but I can feel like the room. Like, I know if people are dancing or not. I look up very quickly.
Like a glance.
But I learned to mix, like, from standing behind the DJ and watching their hands and then watching people dance and how they reacted to different tracks.
Oh.
But nobody would look at the DJ, you know? And
I'm
if
like,
they were, it was like, I was looking at the way Derek Carter mixes, for example, because he was playing on like 3 decks and he would do insane shit. But I was watching his hands and the way, like, what he's doing technically. I wasn't like, what is he wearing? Is he jumping around with his hand in there, not doing anything?
And if you're, let's say, even 10 feet back, 20 feet back, 30 feet back, you're not even seeing anything. So I mean,
the dancers were the show.
They are.
That's the
show.
one thing that I want to go
saying.
back to. I was like, the people make the fucking party. I mean, the music is really important, but you have to trust that, like, if you're booking people for the right reasons, because they're going to create that kind of atmosphere, and not just like, oh, they have a lot of followers and they're going to sell tickets. Yeah. Of course, we need to bring people in, but I find that, like, you can create that atmosphere where people just completely lose themselves, and that's what it's all about. Like
100%.
And then they trust you, and they trust that they're gonna have fun at your party, and that's how you build a community and a following. And like, when I moved to Berlin, I never even needed to check the club's lineups. Like, I would go to Panorama Bar, and I knew I would have fun, and I would always see people I'd never heard of, and like have these magical experiences. And for me, it was like the greatest, most like revolutionary dance floor for those reasons. It was always special, and it was just because of the entire fucking room. It was the crowd, like, it was just
it's the
everything.
people the people that are attending the party and the general collective.
But if you don't have that crowd, it's a totally different space, you know? Like,
and anywhere that would be the same.
But that's what I mean. Like, at any club, like, it's the people and the music and everything collectively, and we forget that.
Yeah.
People are putting so much focus on, like, pumping up, like, superstar DJs or making it all about this, like, popularity contest, and that takes away from what it's actually about, you know, because...
I mean, no offense to you as a DJ and producer, I just find it exhausting and boring, to be quite honest.
It's exhausting and it's boring for fucking everybody, and you know,
like, what is the deal?
It doesn't actually add any value. I mean, I'm not in high school. I don't really care about being popular. I just wanted to be a really good artist and give something to the music that I care about and hang out with my friends.
Yeah, and when we're talking about, you know, local scenes and being more aware and what can propel in a positive direction, it's also just like, look, it's not like you can be open all the time. When you can be, when you're in the mode, friendly in a space, or at least neutral, you know, like, especially towards the staff. And like, you know, I see so many instances or hear of so many instances where people are mistreating the staff or just like not respecting the environment that they're in, and like the effort that everyone takes to put that together. And how, I mean, we just went through COVID, things got shut down. And for me, it's wild to see how willy-nilly a lot of people can be about spaces when we know how fragile that they can actually be.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I will not be friends with someone if I see them being mean to anyone in the staff. And actually, then I know how a person is in real life, because the way that they treat someone they don't need anything from is, like, exactly who they are as a person. Not how they treat the DJ or something, but how they treat the driver, the person at the door, like, you know, like, this kind of shit, you know. For me, that's like the biggest tell, because I've been in all those positions, and if someone treats me different when they find out what I'm doing, you know what I mean? But it's funny, because those are the people I will pay zero attention to, and like the people that are really kind and whatever, I'm always like,
Like, tell me more.
I mean, I've met a lot of friends that way, like in this community that way, you know, because I want to meet interesting, cool people that are really like honest, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm not like a small talk person. I don't know if that comes from all my whatever, like ADHD or like just from being Ukrainian, but I can only tolerate meaningful shit in my life. It's just like the rest of it gives me fucking anxiety. I'm not like a small talk fake person kind of person, so like I need that almost, you know what I mean? Like I don't tolerate the rest of it. It's like it makes me tired.
I've met some of my very close friends and met extraordinary people just by like being attracted to someone, not attracted romantically or sexually, but attracted to how someone is dancing on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Like one of my very close friends, I call him my like binary dance floor star person.
Yeah.
You know, like we, as far as I remember, we were met on the dance floor and just like really engaged. I was just really engaged with like how they danced, complimented them, and like getting to know them that way. So, you know, being open if and when you can in those moments can open you up to people, places, things that you might not have envisioned, and that might alter your life.
Totally. And also listening to someone that you're in contact with, you know, like the people you meet at a party might be different than the driver. And sometimes I have had these conversations that were like so profound with just someone driving me from the airport that really like changed my life and changed my perspective more than even the party or being at the club did, you know. And like I think it's like those experiences, that's what makes this all beautiful and makes it special, you know, and makes this whole thing like what it should be, which is connecting people.
Yeah. And you know, I know on my end I've talked a lot about on the dance floor, but really off the dance floor is just as equally important. When you do, you know, check in on your friends, like, you know, make plans to go to the park, have a coffee, whatever, but it doesn't always have to be on a dance floor. You know, all of the things that we touched on and then some are just incredibly important to keep top of mind and refresh ourselves with, you know, the increasing number of threats that globally that local scenes are facing and aims to shut them down.
I think right now it's like it's very important to support your local like radio station, record shops, clubs, promoters, artists, and you know, instead of like writing for guest list, just actually buying tickets for events, because our industry, it might seem like everybody's just really doing well, but I can promise you it's like the top 1% that are, you know, floating while the rest of it is kind of at a critical point where it's in danger of we're losing a lot of people in a lot of venues and stuff like that. And I think it's really important to kind of do that. And you know, if you don't have the financial means to like support crowdfunding or whatever, just share the info, you know, because you never know who it's gonna hit. Like if your radio station's raising money and you can't donate, I would just share the crowdfunding, because you know, the more that you spread information, the more help you can get.
Yeah, in terms of sharing, whether you're on social media or not, you can literally share it directly with your friends.
Send it to your parents. They have friends.
Well, maybe.
I hope. I don't know.
Send it to, you know.
Send it to every boomer you know. Let's go.
Or just share or bring awareness to the topic. Whatever you're capable of doing. Look, like it's an uphill climb when you look at the avalanche of everything that's happening by the minute, and it's very overwhelming. So certainly, you know, do what you can, but when you do have awareness, like taking those extra steps, I think is very, very key.
Yeah.
You know, it's apparent that the world is changing on every millisecond's notice, and there's a lot to be uncertain about, but our conversation gave me a lot of grounding and in terms of what we can impact, in terms of our own personal place within the scenes and the dance music scenes that give each of us so much or have the capability to.
Yeah.
It's given me some positive propulsion to think about and to chat about this with you, very much so.
And this is why we need friends and community, because, you know, no matter how we're feeling or if we're feeling down or what's happening, we can always find like a like-minded person to have these conversations with that we leave feeling positive, and, you know, that's how change happens.
Yeah, and sometimes too, negative feelings can equal a positive when you talk it out and you get it out of your head and you get it into words. I mean, I've had that experience where you're just feeling like, ugh, and then you kind of like volley for a while and somehow you end up in a better place than you turned out. I know for me, keeping something in my head is like, it is not
my
for the
head
best.
is just chaos.
I feel you.
I can't really explain that to people, but I think it's also why I like doing music, because it's the only time my mind shuts off. Like, everything else in my head is complete chaos.
When I dance, my mind's going like this. But usually, like, I mean, it can be a lot of different things. And fortunately, it's been a lot of creative things are happening in my head, which has been a really good
That's wonderful
benefit of doing, rants and raves with my writing and the podcast. But
I like rants and raves.
Thank you.
So you did good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. I really appreciate your time and all of your insights. Like what you hear and want more? Subscribe to the newsletter at rantsandраves.substack.com for columns and audio emailed directly to you.